That marriage was a mistake anyway. My mother-in-law said throwing my wedding dress in the trash on my anniversary, but when she saw what I did to her son's will, she screamed. Hey lovelies. If this kind of story speaks to your heart, please support us by subscribing. Drop a hi in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Now let's continue today's story. The scent of vanilla candles still lingered in our bedroom when I found Owen collapsed on the bathroom floor. His face was pale, lips tinged blue, and for a terrifying moment I thought I'd lost him. Baby, stay with me, I whispered, calling 911 with trembling fingers. 3 years of marriage, and this was how we'd spend our anniversary. In an ambulance racing toward the hospital. Owen had been battling a rare heart condition since childhood, something his mother Dorothy never let me forget. He was perfectly fine before you came along, she'd hiss whenever his symptoms flared. The paramedics worked frantically as I held his hand, watching machines beep and flash around us. At the hospital, Dr. Williams delivered the crushing blow. His condition has deteriorated significantly. We need to discuss long-term care options and preparations. The word hung heavy between us. Owen squeezed my hand, his eyes telling me everything his weak voice couldn't. Kendra, he whispered, promise me you'll fight for what's ours. I didn't understand then what he meant. How could I know that Dorothy was already plotting, viewing her son's declining health as an opportunity? She arrived at the hospital in her expensive coat, immediately pushing past me to reach Owen's bedside. My poor baby, she cooed, shooting me a look that could freeze fire. Don't worry, Mama's here now. The nurse mentioned something about updated emergency contacts and medical directives. Owen tried to speak, but Dorothy interrupted. I'll handle everything. I'm his mother after all. That's when I should have known. The way she positioned herself between us, the satisfied smirk when doctors addressed her instead of me. Owen fell unconscious again, and Dorothy's mask slipped just enough for me to catch her muttering, finally. 2 weeks later, Owen was home but bedridden. I'd taken leave from my teaching job to care for him full-time, managing his medications, physical therapy appointments, and the mounting medical bills. Dorothy visited daily, always criticizing my care while pretending to help. You're giving him too much medicine, Kendra. I raised him, I know what's best. She'd rearrange his pills, change his schedule, and undermine every decision I made. When I'd politely correct her, she'd play victim. I'm just trying to help my dying son. The morning she found my wedding dress was a Tuesday. I'd stored it carefully in the hall closet, wrapped in preservation tissue, dreaming of maybe passing it down someday. Owen and I had talked about renewing our vows when he got better. Something to look forward to. I was in the kitchen preparing his breakfast when I heard the crash. Dorothy stood in the hallway, my dress bundled in her arms, tissue paper scattered everywhere. What are you doing? I asked, my heart already racing. Cleaning out this clutter. Owen needs space for his medical equipment, not reminders of your little fantasy wedding. She marched toward the back door, my dress trailing behind her like a fallen angel's wings. Dorothy, please don't. But she was already outside, stuffing my dress into the garbage can with deliberate cruelty. The delicate lace caught on the metal edge, tearing as she shoved it deeper. That marriage was a mistake anyway, she said, brushing her hands together with satisfaction. You trapped my son when he was vulnerable, but I won't let you destroy what's left of his life. I stood frozen, watching 3 years of memories disappear into rotting banana peels and coffee grounds. The dress Owen had cried seeing me wear. The dress that made me feel beautiful on the happiest day of my life. Owen was sleeping when I told him about the dress. His eyes filled with tears and he tried to sit up, but the effort left him gasping. Kendra, I'm so sorry. I'll talk to her. Don't exhaust yourself, baby. It's just fabric. But we both knew it was so much more. It was respect, boundaries, and the future we'd dreamed of together. Dorothy arrived that afternoon with groceries she hadn't asked us to buy and opinions nobody requested. She barged into our bedroom without knocking, waking Owen from the first peaceful sleep he'd had in days. Owen, honey, I've been thinking about your situation. Maybe it's time to discuss practical matters. You know, making sure your affairs are in order. Her voice dripped with false concern. Owen weakly gestured for her to leave, but she ignored him. I've spoken with my lawyer and there are things we need to address. Assets, insurance policies, the house. Her eyes gleamed as she spoke. Mom, not now. Owen managed, his breathing labored. When then? When it's too late. She pulled out paperwork from her purse. I have everything prepared. You just need to sign. I stepped forward, my voice steady despite my anger. He said, "Not now, Dorothy." She whirled around, her mask finally dropping completely. "This doesn't concern you, little girl. This is family business, and last I checked, blood runs thicker than whatever temporary arrangement you two have." Owen tried to speak, but Dorothy continued her assault. "You've had your fun, but it's time to be realistic. When Owen passes, and he will, everything should go to family who actually cares about his legacy." "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me." I said, "Get out of our house. Now." Dorothy laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your house? Honey, this house will be mine soon enough, along with everything else my son worked for before you came along." That night, Owen waited until Dorothy left before calling me to his bedside. His hands shook as he reached into his nightstand drawer, pulling out a manila envelope I'd never seen before. "Kendra, there's something I need to tell you. About my mother, about our finances." He coughed, and I could see talking exhausted him, but he pushed forward. "She thinks she knows everything about my will, about what I've prepared for after." He couldn't say the words, so I held his hand and waited. 2 months ago, when my first episode happened, I updated everything. "My lawyer has copies, but this is yours." He pressed the envelope into my hands. "Don't open it until I'm not here to protect you anymore." "Owen, don't talk like that. Promise me, Kendra. Promise you won't let her take everything we've built together. She's not the woman she pretends to be." His grip tightened with surprising strength. "She's been planning this since our wedding day." I thought about all the subtle comments, the way she questioned our marriage, the documents she'd brought today. "What do you mean?" Owen's eyes grew heavy, but he forced himself to continue. "She never accepted us. When we got married, she said I was throwing my life away on someone who'd never understand our family's expectations." The words hit me like physical blows. 3 years of holidays, family dinners, and forced smiles while she slowly poisoned our happiness. I'd tried so hard to win her approval, buying her expensive gifts, cooking her favorite meals, letting her redecorate our guest room to her tastes. "She told me once that love doesn't last, but family money does," Owen whispered. I thought she was just being dramatic, but now? He fell asleep holding my hand, the envelope burning like a secret between us. Whatever was inside would either save me or destroy what little peace we had left. 3 days later, Owen took a turn for the worse. I found him unconscious in the bathroom, his lips blue again, pulse barely detectable. This time the ambulance ride felt different, final somehow. Dr. Williams met us at emergency with a grave expression. "His heart is failing faster than we anticipated. We need to discuss immediate intervention options and prepare for all possibilities." Dorothy arrived within an hour, somehow knowing about the emergency before I'd even called her. She swooped into the ICU like a vulture, immediately taking charge of conversations with doctors and nurses. "I'm his mother and emergency contact," she announced, though that wasn't true. "All medical decisions go through me." "Actually, Mrs. Johnson, his wife is listed as primary." "That was an oversight we're correcting," Dorothy interrupted, pulling out paperwork. "I have power of attorney for medical decisions." My blood turned cold. When had she gotten that? Owen was unconscious, hooked to machines that beeped ominously. I couldn't ask him, couldn't verify her claims. "There must be some mistake," I said, but the nurse looked uncomfortable, caught between conflicting documents. Dorothy smiled, that cruel smile I'd learned to hate. "Kendra, dear, you're not equipped to make these kinds of decisions. You don't understand Owen's medical history like I do." She began making calls, scheduling consultations, discussing treatment options that sounded more like giving up than fighting. When I questioned her choices, she turned to the medical staff. "You see how emotional she gets? This is exactly why family should handle these matters." I sat beside Owen's bed that night, watching his chest rise and fall with mechanical assistance. The envelope he'd given me felt heavy in my purse. Whatever secrets it contained, I prayed I wouldn't need them yet. But Dorothy's satisfied expression told a different story. Owen stabilized enough to come home, but he was weaker, sleeping most days and barely eating. Dorothy's visits increased, and each time she brought more paperwork, more urgent documents that needed immediate attention. "Owen, sweetheart, we need to talk about transferring some assets," she said during one visit, spreading papers across our kitchen table. For tax purposes, you understand. I was making lunch when I overheard. What kind of assets? Dorothy didn't look up. Adult business, dear. Nothing that concerns you. But Owen was too weak to focus on legal documents. He'd nod along, signing whatever she put in front of him just to make her leave him alone. I watched helplessly as she gathered each signed paper like trophies. There's also the matter of the house, Dorothy continued. It would be much more efficient if ownership transferred to the family trust. Just a formality, really. My hands stilled on the sandwich I was preparing. Our house. Well, technically it's Owen's house, registered in his name only. And since he's unwell, it makes sense to protect the asset. Dorothy's voice carried that familiar condescending tone. Owen tried to protest, but she cut him off. You're not thinking clearly, baby. Let Mama handle the complicated stuff. That afternoon, after Dorothy left with another stack of signed documents, I finally confronted Owen. Do you understand what you're signing? His eyes were cloudy, unfocused from pain medication. She says it's to protect us, to make sure you're taken care of. Owen, listen to me. Really listen. I took his hands, feeling how cold they'd become. I don't think she's protecting us. I think she's planning for after you're gone, and those plans don't include me. He tried to focus, tried to understand, but the medication made coherent thought difficult. The envelope, Kendra. When I can't think anymore. Open the envelope. That night, I called the lawyer whose name was on Owen's previous will. I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson, but I can't discuss your husband's affairs without his explicit consent. And Mrs. Dorothy Johnson called yesterday to let us know she's handling all legal matters now. My stomach dropped. She's not his wife. I am. I understand your confusion, but she has proper documentation showing power of attorney for all financial and legal decisions. The next morning, I woke to find Dorothy already in our house, coffee made, breakfast prepared, acting like she owned the place. Owen was still sleeping, exhausted from another difficult night. We need to talk, she said, her voice different, colder, more direct. Woman to woman. I sat across from her at our kitchen table, suddenly feeling like a stranger in my own home. You've been living in a fantasy, Kendra. Playing house with my son, pretending this little love story would have a happy ending. She stirred her coffee slowly, deliberately. But fairy tales aren't real, and it's time you understood your position. What are you talking about? Owen is dying. We both know it. The question is what happens next. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. You can make this easy, or you can make this very difficult for yourself. I felt my heart racing, but I kept my voice steady. What do you want, Dorothy? I want you gone. Quietly, gracefully, before this gets ugly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a check. This is more than fair compensation for your services these past 3 years. The check was for $50,000. A fortune to me, but probably pocket change to Dorothy's family. You think you can buy me? Like I'm some kind of... I couldn't finish the sentence. Like you're exactly what you are, dear. A pretty distraction who got in over her head. Dorothy's smile was razor sharp. Owen comes from money, real generational wealth. Did you think his family would just let some teacher walk away with everything? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Take the money, Kendra. Sign the divorce papers I've prepared and walk away. Because if you force me to do this the hard way, you'll leave with nothing but debt and heartbreak. Divorce papers? Owen would never. Owen won't have a choice. Power of attorney is a wonderful thing. That night I couldn't sleep. Dorothy's words echoed in my head, mixing with memories of every subtle slight, every backhanded compliment, every moment I'd felt unwelcome in what should have been my family. Owen was unconscious, his breathing shallow but steady. I pulled out the envelope he'd given me, my hands shaking. He'd said not to open it until he couldn't protect me anymore. Looking at his pale, fragile form, I realized that time had come. Inside were multiple documents, all bearing official seals and signatures. A new will dated just 2 months ago. Insurance policy updates. Property transfers. And a letter in Owen's handwriting, weak but determined. My dearest Kendra, it began. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone or too sick to fight for us anymore. I need you to know the truth about my mother, about our marriage, and about what I've done to protect you. The letter revealed everything. Dorothy's years of financial manipulation, her attempts to control Owen's medical care during previous episodes, her explicit threats about our marriage. But more importantly, it detailed Owen's countermoves. I've transferred the house into both our names. The trust fund my grandmother left me, the one my mother thinks she controls, now belongs entirely to you. My life insurance policy lists you as the sole beneficiary. Everything she thinks she's stealing has already been given to you legally. My hands trembled as I read further. Owen had been protecting me for months, quietly moving assets, updating documents, building legal walls around our life together. There's more, Kendra. In the safety deposit box at First National, you'll find evidence of my mother's financial abuse over the years. Bank records, forged documents, money she stole from my accounts when I was too sick to notice. It's enough to pursue criminal charges if necessary. The final paragraph broke my heart. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger, couldn't fight her openly. But I won't let her destroy you the way she tried to destroy me. You are my heart, my light, my legacy. Don't let her take that away. At the bottom was the safety deposit box number and key location. Dorothy thought she was playing chess, but Owen had been playing chess too. I waited until Dorothy's next visit to reveal what I knew. She arrived with more paperwork, more urgent documents that needed Owen's signature, but found me sitting at the kitchen table with Owen's real will spread before me. What is this? She asked, but her voice had lost its commanding tone. The truth, Dorothy. Everything Owen actually wanted, not what you've been forging. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, anger, then cold calculation. You don't understand what you're dealing with, little girl. I understand perfectly. You've been stealing from your dying son, manipulating legal documents, and planning to leave me homeless and broke after his funeral. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in months. But Owen was smarter than both of us realized. Dorothy grabbed for the papers, but I pulled them away. These are copies. The originals are safely stored where you can't touch them. This is forgery. Owen never would have signed these. Sure, he did. 2 months ago, when you thought he was too sick to think clearly. Turns out he was thinking more clearly than he ever had. I pulled out the bank statements, the evidence of her financial theft over the years. Did you think he wouldn't notice the missing money? The forged signatures? The fake power of attorney documents? Dorothy's composure finally cracked. He owes me. I raised him, sacrificed everything for him. You've been married 3 years. I've been his mother his entire life. Being a mother doesn't give you the right to steal from your child. You don't deserve any of this, she screamed, her voice shrill and desperate. You're nothing. A nobody who got lucky. When Owen dies, you'll go back to your little teaching job and your little life, and our family will endure. I smiled, feeling a calm strength I'd never experienced before. That's where you're wrong, Dorothy. When Owen passes, I'll be the one enduring. I'll be the one protecting his legacy. And you'll be the one explaining to police why you've been forging documents and stealing from a dying man. Word of our confrontation reached Owen somehow, even in his weakened state. That evening he managed to stay awake long enough for us to talk. Did you open it? He whispered, and I nodded, taking his hand. Thank you for protecting us, I said, tears streaming down my face. I had no idea how bad it was. She wasn't always like this, Owen struggled to speak. After Dad died, money became her god. She couldn't stand that I chose love over wealth. We spent that night talking about our dreams, our memories, our regrets. Owen told me about his childhood, how Dorothy had gradually isolated him from friends who weren't suitable, from interests that weren't profitable, from any life that didn't serve her vision of family legacy. You saved me, Kendra. You showed me what real love looks like, not the conditional affection I grew up with. You saved me too, baby. You made me believe I deserved happiness. Over the next few days, Dorothy made several attempts to visit, but I firmly turned her away each time. Owen was too weak for confrontation, and I wouldn't let her poison his final moments with manipulation and guilt. She's my mother, Owen said weakly after I'd refused her latest request to visit. She's also the woman who threw my wedding dress in the garbage and called our marriage a mistake, I replied gently. Right now you need peace, not stress. Owen nodded, understanding. We spent those precious last days watching old movies, looking through photo albums, and talking about everything except what was coming. His breathing became more labored, his sleep deeper and longer. Dr. Williams visited daily, adjusting medications, preparing us both for the inevitable. It could be days or weeks, he said gently. His heart is just too tired to keep fighting. I never left Owen's side, sleeping in the chair beside our bed, waking whenever his breathing changed. Dorothy called constantly, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails, but I didn't answer. Owen passed peacefully on a Tuesday morning, just as sunrise painted our bedroom golden. I held his hand as his breathing simply stopped, and for a moment the world felt impossibly quiet. Dr. Williams arrived within an hour, followed by the funeral home staff. Everything felt surreal, like watching someone else's life from a distance. The man I'd loved more than life itself was gone, and suddenly I had to make decisions about flowers and services and burial plots. Dorothy appeared at my door that afternoon, dressed in dramatic black, her eyes red from crying, or maybe from rage. "We need to discuss arrangements," she announced, pushing past me into the house. "The Johnson family has traditions, expectations. Owen will be buried in the family plot, and the service will be at our family church." "No," I said simply. "Excuse me. Owen wanted to be cremated. He wanted his ashes scattered in the lake where we had our first date." I showed her the document where he'd specified his wishes. "He also wanted the service at our church where we were married." Dorothy's face contorted with fury. "Those aren't our traditions. He's a Johnson, and Johnsons are buried with dignity, not scattered like garbage. He was also my husband, and these were his wishes." "Your marriage is over," she screamed. "You have no legal standing anymore. I'm his next of kin." I pulled out Owen's will, pointing to the section about funeral arrangements. "Actually, I'm his widow, and according to this legal document, I have full authority over all decisions regarding his final wishes." Dorothy grabbed the papers, reading frantically. As the reality sank in, that Owen had outmaneuvered her even in death, her face went through a transformation I'll never forget. Disbelief, rage, then something approaching hysteria. "This can't be legal. I'll contest it. I'll fight this until..." "Until what, Dorothy? Until you've spent your entire inheritance on lawyers? Go ahead. These documents were prepared by the best estate attorneys in the city." She stood there, trembling with fury, realizing that everything she'd planned, everything she'd manipulated toward, had been undone by her own son. The funeral was beautiful. Exactly what Owen would have wanted. Our friends filled the small church where we'd exchanged vows 3 years earlier. Dorothy sat in the front row, stone-faced and silent, surrounded by relatives who whispered among themselves about the situation. After the service, as people gathered for the reception, Dorothy cornered me one last time. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I'll find a way to break that will. I'll prove he wasn't mentally competent when he signed it." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "But you should know. Owen recorded a video 2 weeks before he died explaining every decision he made and why he made it. His lawyer has it." Dorothy's face drained of color. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "He was very detailed, Dorothy. He talked about your years of financial manipulation, the forged documents, the emotional abuse. He also mentioned some very specific bank transactions that might interest the district attorney." I pulled out a business card from my purse. "This is Detective Morrison. He specializes in elder abuse cases. He's very interested in reviewing those bank records from the safety deposit box." Dorothy stared at the card like it might bite her. "You wouldn't dare. Try me. You spent 3 years making my life miserable, culminating in throwing my wedding dress away like garbage while your son was dying. You called our marriage a mistake and tried to steal everything he worked for." I stepped closer, my voice deadly quiet. "I have nothing left to lose, Dorothy, and everything to gain by seeing you face consequences for your actions." She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. For the first time in 3 years, Dorothy Johnson was completely speechless. "You have a choice," I continued. "You can walk away quietly, live on your own money instead of Owen's, and we never have to see each other again. Or you can keep fighting, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you really are." Dorothy turned and walked away without another word, her expensive shoes clicking on the church floor like a countdown timer that had finally reached 0. 6 months after Owen's funeral, I stood in our bedroom, my bedroom now, packing the last of his belongings. The house felt different without him, quieter but somehow more peaceful. Dorothy had never contacted me again after our confrontation at the church. I'd kept my promise about the detective, though. The investigation into Dorothy's financial activities was ongoing, and from what I heard through mutual acquaintances, she'd been forced to sell her expensive condo to pay legal fees. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd spent years trying to secure Owen's inheritance, only to lose her own money fighting battles she couldn't win. I'd returned to teaching, finding solace in my students' energy and hope. The life insurance money and Owen's inheritance sat mostly untouched in the bank. It felt wrong to enjoy luxuries bought with my husband's death, though I had used some funds to establish a scholarship in Owen's name for students pursuing education despite family opposition. On my desk sat a framed photo from our wedding day, Owen and me laughing, completely oblivious to the pain that lay ahead. Next to it was the letter he'd written me, now framed as well. Sometimes I reread it when missing him became unbearable. The doorbell interrupted my packing. I opened it to find a delivery man holding a small package. No return address, but my name written in careful script across brown paper. Inside was my wedding dress. Not the original that Dorothy had destroyed, but an identical replica in my size. Attached was a note: "Found the designer from your wedding photos. Thought you should have this back. A friend." I never discovered who sent it, though I suspected Owen's cousin Sarah, who'd always disapproved of Dorothy's behavior. It didn't matter who had arranged it. I held the dress against myself, remembering the joy of that day, the hope Owen and I had shared. My tears fell freely, not from sadness anymore, but from gratitude that I'd experienced real love, even briefly. Dorothy had been wrong about everything. Our marriage wasn't a mistake. It was the most beautiful, meaningful part of my life. Owen's love had given me strength I never knew I possessed, courage to stand up for myself, and wisdom to recognize true value versus mere wealth. Looking out at the lake where we'd had our first date, where I'd scattered Owen's ashes according to his wishes, I whispered, "Thank you for protecting me, baby. Thank you for showing me what I'm worth." The dress would hang in my closet, a symbol not of what I'd lost but of what I'd gained: self-respect, inner strength, and the knowledge that love, real love, leaves a legacy that money can never buy or destroy. Dorothy may have thrown away my original wedding dress, but she could never throw away what Owen and I had built together. In trying to tear us apart, she'd only made our bond stronger. And sometimes when the sun hits the lake just right, I swear I can feel Owen smiling, knowing that his final gift to me wasn't money or property. It was freedom. Looking back, maybe I should have seen this coming and handled it better from the start. But in the moment, this felt like my only option. What would you have done differently?